I mean, before, if my senses were dulled, right, whether I, had stayed up late the night before, maybe had, 3-4 glasses of wine, but staying up late, that affects the next day. And interruption, and I just shut it down, and I just kind of move on to the next thing. Let's get on. But now, now that I don't have that, I've become much more tuned to the subtleties of the ebb and flow of my emotional experience. And that's not a bad thing, I don't think, but it definitely makes living a little more challenging. And I think the reason why people drink, I think it's pretty obvious. It's because it makes living on some level easier. Like it creates and presents a whole other host of challenges. But I think that it's kind of a trade-off, right? It's like you're kind of doing a dance with the devil. You're putting off your demons for a little bit so you can, cope. It's a coping mechanism. But it's a coping mechanism that has flaws. So I'm actually grateful for having the fortitude to not drink. And let me tell you, I've been tested severely on a number of occasions. And I've I'll just go back to that time on Halloween, when I found out that my ex-wife was getting remarried. And it was one of those, life shock kind of crater moments. And I went to the market to go get a bottle of wine, and the entire aisle where the wine was stacked full of boxes, and I couldn't get in. And for me, that was a clear sign from the universe that was telling me, sorry, Charlie, no booze for you. So I'm grateful for the fortitude of not being able, of not drinking. And everything else that gets to come out as a result of that. I tell you what else I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my dear friends who, in supporters of the blog and the website and the community, the virtual community that has become a part of my life. And there are a lot of you out there. Some of you are listening now. Some of you will listen as a podcast. And I'll probably leave somebody out if I just started doing shout outs, but just I'm going to do a blanket thanks. That way nobody is left out. I just want to say thank you to everybody that listens to the show and reads the blog and is supportive in the way that you are supportive, whether you're actively or just, and just passively supportive by participating in experiencing the content and being a witness to what I'm going through and what you're going through and what we're all going through. So I'm deeply grateful to all of you for being a part of this. And I'm also really grateful to, this is hard for me to say, I'm grateful to my mother. And it's taken me a while to get to this point with her. When I was growing up, I did not have the strongest relationship with my mother. I had a pretty strong relationship with my father, tempestuous but strong, undoubtedly strong. He was a Libra rising, and all my Libra stuff was in his first house. If you broke down my mother's chart, everything is opposite. We are completely opposite, and not necessarily the best combination at times, but it's been 2 years now since my father passed away, and I've had 2 years of intense bonding and trying to get to know this woman who brought me into this world. And we're getting better. We're getting better at understanding one another, and it's been good. And I think that my life would be incomplete had I not taken the time to, get to know this person in a way where there was no buffer between, myself and her. And I just want to give her a shout out because she's done an amazing job with her life since my father's passed away, And I'll give you a little bit of a background. My mother was a virgin when she met my father, okay? I know it's a concept that is almost utterly foreign to people these days, but she was a virgin when she met my father. She never divorced my father. My father was the only man that my mother ever knew intimately, okay? So this is probably count those people on one hand, maybe one finger or two. It's different era, totally different era. And there are pros and cons to that, right? The pros were that, it was a very traditional relationship for her. And I think that they had some clear gender demarcation, and I think it worked well for them. And they got through a lot of their shit, and not perfect, they stayed together. The cons are that she didn't know what else was out there, right? And she didn't get to experience herself, and all those things. It's the dilemma of the modern woman. Anyway, 2 years after my father's passed away, she's gotten actively involved in her church. She's become a docent for the Black Hawk Classic Car Museum. She's bought a condo. She's got friends. And my mother's, in the wake of her grief and separation, and she went through it pretty hard, she has really forged a life for herself. And I'm grateful that she's been able to do that for her. I'm grateful that, because if she could not do that, I think she'd be in just incredibly dire straits. And that tells you a little bit about her strength. That's a strong woman. So thanks to her and props to her. And let me just say thanks to this great spirit that infuses all of us with amazing capacity to learn and grow and understand and be creative. I want to give serious thanks to that spirit, whether you call it God, whether you call it the Great Spirit, whether you call it the universe, life force, whatever that is. It is a very real aspect in our lives. And I think it's important that we recognize it. I've been, if you haven't been to my website, I've just put up a post on the movie Thrive. And it's been interesting to see how this movie impacts people. It's a very polarizing film, very polarizing. Since I did a lot of research on it, and because it's new, right, there aren't a lot of critical takes on the film. There are a few out there. But there aren't a lot of them. I'd say it's probably more pro-Thrive than con-Thrive. So it took me, a while to get the research down and to try to uncover some information with or on Foster Gamble and the mechanics, the nuts and bolts of Thrive. And one of the things that I found about Thrive is that there is a decided lack of vocabulary or dialogue or nomenclature when it comes to addressing faith. And this is where the conservative Christian right comes in. And they have a pretty big runway to launch, their airstrike into Thrive, because Thrive does not address this concept of a God or a creator. They don't address that at all. the film steers clear of that. In fact, what the film is saying very subtly is that it's ancient aliens are the gods. And this is something that Jack Pruitt was talking about a few weeks on the show, on the Friday show. And, you know, I am a believer that we have had alien contact and we've been genetically modified. I don't dispute that, but I don't think it is mutually exclusive of God. I think both stories can be equally true. And I think that that's where we get hung up on things. So, but that's not, this whole concept of faith is not something that's part of Thrive. Thrive is the ultimate in human potential. So it's a pretty polarizing movie. If you haven't gone to my website to read my piece on it, robertphoenix.com, check it out. Get a fair amount of traffic. I hope it gets more. I've been concerned. People are not commenting on my posts a lot these days. I'm not sure what to make of that. I mean, are they just so stunning that people are afraid to comment? Or are they just like so ho-hum that people are afraid, or just they don't care? But you don't have to go there and comment to make me feel better. I'm just curious. It's been an interesting trend. That doesn't mean that I'm not getting traffic. My traffic is up on my website. November will be the most successful or most trafficked month on my website. I think the second most this year. And this experience here on Blog Talk Radio, my numbers are up for November as well. So it's not like I'm not growing. I am. Just people aren't sharing their thoughts, and that's okay. I can live with that. It's just sometimes it feels like I'm lobbing stuff out into a void, and that could be a little challenging. A little bit. Not like I'm dying for feedback. I'm not that needy. I'm just curious. It is 10:27. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've heard what I've been grateful for. I'm grateful for my health and the ability to take some real strong notices around my health and dropping wheat and dropping alcohol and improving my health as a result of that. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for my son. What can I say? Brings me great joy in my life. Let's talk a little more astrology. Let's get off of the me grateful train. So last night I was what I do, just to give you an idea. So I will go online and I will try to figure out if there are any interesting birthdays. And hold on, I have to have a vanity moment. I'm clicking on my, there's somebody's on hold. I'm just checking my, no. There we go. User up, 365 visits. So what I do before a show is I go and I look at significant birthdays. 469, I see on there. I'm going to get to you. That might be Steve. But I look at birthdays, see if there's any significant birthdays. And today, and then what I try to do is I try to make the birthdays of the day pertinent, right? So that maybe we can learn something about astrology. So I'm going to take one chart today, and what I'm going to do is right now I'm going to put a link to this chart, and if you are interested in doing a little astrology, quote unquote, lesson, I'm going to link to this chart. And here we go. Let me just put this in here. I'm putting it in the chat room, and hopefully it'll work. Let's see here.